Okay, what we're looking at here is the whole idea of revenue, which is basically the amount of money that the firm are going to receive from selling all the goods that they've made. Now, the first concept that we need to consider is total revenue, and total revenue is simply the price of the good in the marketplace times whatever quantity they sell. So if, for example, the price was £5 and they sell 100, then the total revenue is going to be £500. The average of anything is always the total divided by the quantity. So we can see here it's the total revenue divided by quantity. Now, if total revenue is price times quantity, and then we divide by the quantity, then I hope that what you can see is that you can cross out the two quantities and we end up with the price of the good. Now, bearing in mind that the demand curve from last year always related to the price of the good to the quantity that was being demanded. So now what we can suggest is that the average revenue is always equal price, and therefore the demand curve is the average revenue curve. Let's have a look at marginal. Marginal revenue is the extra revenue you get from selling one more or one less good, and it's given to us by the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. The formula for it is total revenue here divided by the change in quantity. Now, looking at it graphically, what we can see, I hope, is that if the average revenue curve here is downward sloping, then what we can argue is that at any quantity here, Q0, the average revenue can simply be read off the revenue or price axis up here. And so because average revenue is always price, then you can see that the average revenue equals the price. Because we remember that total revenue, because we also need to work out total revenue, because we can remember, I hope, that that was P times Q, then we can simply take the price, multiply it by the quantity, and we get the box there. Total revenue is P times Q. Okay, here's a table which shows you how the total and the marginal are related. So basically, if we'd had a price of 12, then we sold nothing, dropped my price to 10, and I suddenly sell 20. So the total revenue is literally gone up by £200. The marginal revenue is this change in total, remember, £200, divided by the change in the quantity. In this case, it's divided by 20, because that's the change in quantity. Because the marginal revenue, remember, is the revenue received from one more good. And so I want to know if 20 gave me, okay, these 20, they gave me £200 more, then each one will give me £10 more over this range here. You can keep doing the same, so take this over to here. That's £40, it's gone up by £40, the revenue. The quantity's still gone up by 20, so the marginal revenue in this case is the £2 that we see there. Now, what is good to spot is that here the marginal revenue is falling. So as we go further down our demand curve, we see that the marginal revenue turns negative. Let's see this on a diagram, and I'll put the table back in so that you can see it, and I'm interested in point A. Now remember that point A is between a quantity of 0 and 20, so here's 0, here's 20. What we tend to do is we tend to just show it here at the midpoint of those, okay? Okay, so here it is at the midpoint, there is the point A, and what you see is that the marginal revenue is £10, which we can see from this table here. So that's how we get the £10 over there. Okay, carrying on, let's just go back through that. Sorry, just lost connection there. If we look at a point B, then we see that this is between 20 and 40, so between 20 and 40 we do it at 30, and we see that this therefore gives us a marginal revenue on that axis there of £6, which is this marginal revenue here. And we carry on point C, which gives us a marginal revenue of +2. Okay, but then as I said to you, at between 60 and 80 the marginal revenue becomes negative, and so the marginal revenue curve will go below the axis there. And if we draw in the marginal revenue curve, this is what we see, that basically it's always going to be half the slope of the average revenue curve. So it's always going to cut any horizontal distance, whichever horizontal distance you draw, the marginal revenue must be half the distance from the axes to the average revenue curve. Now let's have a little look at the total revenue as well at this point. And so what we're suggesting here is that if there's nothing sold, even though the price is £12, we're on this part of the demand curve, the total revenue is going to be nothing. Okay, and so therefore the total revenue will be here nothing. If we go to the other extreme here, where we got 120 quantity sold, but to do that we had to drop the price to 0, we're not going to get any revenue. So again, the total revenue at that point is going to be 0. So we then have to ask ourselves, what's happening to total revenue as I increase my quantity? And what we'll see is that we'll draw another total revenue curve, because it's £360 is the maximum total revenue that we're going to get. If we try to put £360 on this axis here, then all these curves would be really very, very low. Right down here you'd hardly see them. So if we sold 20, here's 20, our total revenue is going to be 200. And so we put a dot there, which is 200. Came across here, that would be about 200. Then if we sold 40, the total revenue is going to be 320. So we put another dot in there, and we keep going up. 360 is going to give us up here, 320, now 80 sold, and the total revenue, can you see, starts to go down. So it peaks at this point here, which is always going to be above this marginal revenue cutting this axis. Okay, alright, so when we draw in the total revenue curve, that's what we see. So there's the graphic representation of all three curves, and they're very useful to know these, because you can always, as I say, at any point here you can go up, you can tell me what the marginal revenue is, and you can go up and you can tell me what the total revenue is, either by, let's say, a point here. Let's draw it in first. Either, let's say, at 40 we could say, well look, it's this box here, there's my total revenue, so it's this box. Or I could say, well actually no, I can go up, go up, go up, go up, hit my total revenue curve, and that box there, that amount there would be the total revenue. And so that amount there is exactly the same as the red box, so the area there is the same.